When I wake up in the morning and take my first step out of bed, I feel like I stepped on a chipped stone, feeling a sharp pain under my heel. These was the words from a client suffering from plantar fasciitis. Does this sound familiar? Plantar fasciitis is experienced by people all over the world and is the most common foot issue or complaint. We experience a lot of wear and tear with our plantar fascia ligaments in our daily life. They are also like shock absorbers, supporting the arch of our feet. Excessive pressure to our feet can strain, tear, and damage our ligaments, and then it will become inflamed. And when it becomes inflamed, it causes pain in the heels and lack of mobility to being stiff. Some orthopaedics say it's truly becoming an epidemic. Well, let's just start off by getting an understanding of what plantar fasciitis is and the causes for it, to see why it's becoming an epidemic. Plantar fascia is a thick, fibrous ligament that stretches and connects from the heel bone to your middle foot bones. Plantar fasciitis is the Latin term for inflammation of the plantar fascia. As I mentioned before, it forms and supports the arch of our feet and acts like a natural shock absorber. Our plantar fascia is not very elastic like a muscle tissue, and because of that, the mobility and ability to be able to be elongated is very limited. It is just one of those injuries that just can pop up when you least expect it. It is important that our feet are properly aligned, just like our back. We need good straight alignments. If not, our back develops scoliosis or kyphosis or lordosis, etc. and will cause a lot of pain, and you won't be able to function well. Same as our feet. We'll either pronate, roll inward, or supinate, roll outward. The most common one is overpronation, and with every step it stretches the plantar fascia. Thus pain will occur on the heel bone due to inflammation being attached to the heel bone and having that pressure of stretching. This will cause heel spur if left untreated, which in simple terms is a small bone that grows out from your heel bone. Then the pain could be even a little more intense. It is really important to realign our feet. So talk to a specialist as soon as possible if you have any feet pain, or even it's just good to just get a checkup done. Plantar fasciitis will either come by compression or traction injuries, and it is very common with people with poor feet biomechanics, such as people with flat feet or weak foot arches. Traction plantar fasciitis. To explain in simple terms what traction is basically a constant overstretching of the plantar fascia. How does this happen? Overusing the plantar fascia with a lot of running, walking, even standing for long periods of time due to your job, which is the majority of the case. Being overweight puts a lot of pressure on our feet of our joints, bones, nerves, ligaments, etc. Our body and feet was designed to hold a natural normal weight, and which eventually will catch up to you. Pregnant women should take extra care, especially in the last 10 weeks, because of the extra weight and pressure. They need to have their feet up as much as they can. Age also has a factor. Our body tends to shrink when we get older. Our muscles and ligaments shorten. That is why, for those who know me, I always talk and emphasize the importance of posture to lengthen. Having unsupportive shoes, footwear, etc., and walking barefoot on hard surfaces such as concrete has a huge effect, and I'll go in depth with this in another video. Basically, the most common reason I've come across is weakness in the arches of the feet, overpronation. All very bad feet biomechanics. Compression, plantar fasciitis. Compression injuries have a record of landing on a sharp object or something that damages or bruises your plantar fascia. If you go to the doctors or physio or any specialist, they will use the term traumatic, which in medical terms mean relating to or denoting physical injury. Sometimes compression plantar fasciitis injuries can be mixed up with the fat pad in your feet, it has a contusion, also known as stone bruise. If only single trauma had taken effect to have this pain. The pain will be under the arch as opposed to under the heel in compression injuries. Now we know the basics of plantar fasciitis. Let's look into the treatments available. I will leave the scariest option for last. Acupuncture. Let's start off by checking what the trained acupuncturists have to say about plantar fasciitis. It is diagnosed as a repetitive stress disorder that occurs as an acute strain. Acupuncture helps clear any energy blockages and helps with regulating the blood flow, or as a key, through the body. They say it boosts the stimulation of the body's natural painkillers. They say to at least do treatment 2 times a week for 3 weeks. Patients start to see improvement around 6 treatments. Cortisone steroid injections. I've heard from other people's experience with cortisone injection that it's quite painful. They inject directly into the heel bone and has an instant effect. It is a powerful anti-inflammatory. Although it's good, that will get rid of the pain, you are still putting chemicals into your body, and it's a temporary solution. And I always tell people to go to the root of the issue to fix it. This will not cure the pain, and just to add, you have to inject it once every couple of months depending on what your doctors or specialists say. Shockwave therapy. Patients often go to shockwave therapy for an alternative treatment than cortisone steroid injections or acupunctures, etc. ESWT stands for extracorporeal shockwave treatment. Extracorporeal means outside of the body. This therapy is approximately an 18-minute non-surgical procedure to help alleviate or to try to cure chronic plantar fasciitis. Usually the technician will tell you to lie on your back or on your belly and to put a soft water-filled membrane under your foot that is about to be treated. A anesthesia is applied for reduction of pain. The technician will now proceed using his machine to find where the areas are needed to be treated, and if they are doing it correctly, the only thing you should be hearing or feeling is clicking sounds. It could take up to 3 or 4 months to actually see results. Trigger point massage. Trigger points is muscle knots in the tissue of the muscle and are common causes of aches and pains, which unfortunately the majority of the time are underdiagnosed. Our feet is made up of 28 bones, 30 joints, and more than 100 muscles, tendons, and ligaments. So you can be sure there will be a lot of areas where the trigger points can hide. Platelet-rich plasma injections. Basically what they will do here is extract some of your blood, spin it in a centrifuge to get the collagen platelets, then inject it back into your foot to help stimulate the process of healing of the fascia. Orthotic inserts. One of the best ways to preventing plantar fasciitis is having the recommended orthotic inserts for your shoes. The arches will need supporting, and when it's pushed and supported in the correct position, it will align the ankles and legs in a correct position again. This is why it's important to get recommended inserts. There are many different types to get according to your feet, and it's best to talk to your specialist for what is recommended. The ones you get in shops like gel, spongy, rubber, and other inserts may not always be the best option. For example, the gels can have the opposite effect because they can give an unstable and bad walking patterns. They do not provide the feet any biomechanical correction. That is why sometimes going to the specialist pays off at the end. Night splints. In brief terms, they are basically worn at night when you sleep to stretch the plantar fascia. There are different types of splints, and it is best to talk to your specialist for the recommended one for you. Taping your feet. You might be familiar with seeing sports stars on TV having colorful tapes all over their bodies. The purpose is to stretch the muscle targeted while still maintaining full range of motion and to provide some relief of pain and support. Although this is just a temporary solution and not really focusing on treating the root of the issue, it's more of a temporary relief. Ice and anti-inflammatories. Applying ice pack 2 to 3 times a day on the heel for about 10 minutes a day will help the inflammation of the heel. However, it should be just for supplementing because it's just temporary relief of the pain. There are anti-inflammatory options such as creams and medicines like Nurofen, etc. These will help temporary relief to decrease the inflammation of the pain and the plantar fasciitis. However, it's best to try and stay away from pharmaceutical drugs as much as possible. Plantar fasciitis exercises. There are some good exercises that you can do to stretch your fascia. There are plenty on YouTube that you can find. I would recommend doing the wall foot stretching exercise. Also, rolling a ball under your foot exercise. Morning towel stretch routine. Deep tissue foot massage. I will also make some exercise videos with these stretches soon as well. So stay tuned for that. Rest. For the males, it's time to put your pride and ego aside for a second. That means avoid doing your sports for a while. Running, long walking, and also avoid standing for long periods of time. Also avoid walking on hard surfaces such as floors, tiles, or bare feet. Our body has the ability to heal itself if we allow it to. Surgery. As promised, I will leave the scariest to last. And always surgery should be as a last resort if all else fails, and still may not be a guaranteed fix. So basically, what the surgeons do is make an incision into the ligament of the plantar fascia to give it a release of tension and relieve inflammation at the same time. If a heel spur is found, they will remove it as well. As I said, there will be no guarantees, and there's always the chances of side effects and risks when dealing with surgery, like the arc of the foot can become weak, therefore it loses its arc. However, wearing recommended inserts will help prevent that. The second risk would be the heel spur being removed, because it's a piece of your bone being removed, so there's a chance that there could be a slight damage to your veins and arteries that supplies the input and output of your blood supply. Well, there it is, guys. I hope you found this video informative, and I try to keep it simple and concise as possible, because we can so easily drift off on one topic, and it can be a whole study on its own. Everybody is different, so what may work for you may not work for another. That is why it's important to go to the specialist, to go to the root of your injury. The sooner we get to the root, the sooner we can get that fix. But until then, I'll see you next video.
And get away from that bondage. And me and the homie, the Veracity, you know that we tryna set you free. That satanic system, yeah, that is their mission, to run and control everything, and that is the destination. But we gotta set that truth straight in order to be set free, and that's how it has to be.